Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Uncle Frank and I hope that you are having a great day. Today I wanted to take some time to answer a question that I see frequently enough online, and that is, how does one get into collecting, whether it be Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Pokemon cards, Magic cards, or even things that aren't cards, video games, comic books, toys, all kinds of stuff. There's collectibles is a broad category. And for some people, the act of just getting into collectibles can seem like a daunting task, but it really isn't that hard to understand or that difficult to get into once you know what you're doing. So in this video, I'm not going to be giving a step-by-step breakdown what to do to collect whatever it is you're interested in collecting, but I am going to give some tips that I think are worth considering if you're just starting out your collecting journey. Now, if you're someone who is already very familiar with collecting, then I doubt that this video will have much for you, but I hope that you stick around anyway, just because you like, hanging out with your uncle. Now, if you've never tried collecting before, the first tip I have might seem like it's just common sense, but it's to have a budget and to stick to that budget. You see, it doesn't matter if you are one of the richest people on earth, or if you're like me and you don't have a lot of extra spending money at the end of the day. It's important when you're getting into collecting to have a budget and stick to that budget so that your collecting doesn't get away from you. It's very easy when you aren't keeping a budget in mind to spend way more than you anticipated on various cards, some of which might not have even been in your original collection goals. Now, what your budget's going to be month to month will be completely up to you. I can't speak for your financial situation, but I can say that you should do some serious evaluation of what your monthly bills are, what your income is, how much extra spending cash you have at the end of the month, and then of that spending cash, devote a specific amount of it to your collection going forward, and then stick to that. Otherwise, like I said, you're just going to end up with way more cards than you initially thought you would. Some of which you might not even actually want. Now that brings me to my second tip, which is to have a goal. And just like with your budget, you should stick to your goal. Now, your goal should be something that is not only achievable for whatever your budget is, but a non-nebulous goal. It should be a solid goal. So a good goal is, for instance, to say, I will collect every card from Dual Terminal 1. We're going to use a Yu-Gi-Oh example because I'm sorting Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So yeah, a good goal to have as a collector would be to want every single Dual Terminal 1 card, or to want an entire unlimited Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon set. A bad goal, or perhaps a goal that I would not recommend for someone, is to go and say, I want every secret rare card in the game, or I want every elemental hero card. Because when you set a goal like that, you set yourself up for burnout, because those are the kind of goals that are constantly shifting. There will always be more secret rare cards. You never know when another elemental hero could be printed. That kind of goal quickly gets out of control, and you find yourself experiencing burnout pretty quickly. Now, in addition to setting a goal, I firmly believe that you should set a small goal at first. If you're only just getting into collecting and, maybe you're brand new to the hobby, or maybe, you're just hyper casual, you only played Yu-Gi-Oh for a bit back when you were a kid, I recommend starting small. Start with a set you're familiar with. Whether you're particularly fond of that set is irrelevant. It should be something that you're relatively familiar with, something you know about. You know what cards are in the set, and it's an achievable goal for you to collect that set. And another thing, in addition to starting small, you should only be collecting one or two things at a time. And I say that to tie into my next tip. Because my next tip is to not get distracted. This one's the hardest one, I think, to really hammer home. Card companies are ravenous for your dollars. They will do anything to part you with your money. If Konami could invent a machine that would suck dollar bills out of your wallet and deposit them into their pockets, you bet that they would. So, in lieu of that kind of machine, they are constantly releasing all sorts of specialty, shiny collector's sets to try and get you to give them your money. And all of those sets are just a distraction. They are just a way to get you off of the path you're setting for yourself and blow your money on something you might not necessarily need or want. Now, I'm not going to say, a brand new, the new Dueling Mirrors tin is coming out this year. I'm not saying don't buy that. But I am saying if buying that would eat into the collection goals you've set for yourself with the budget you set for yourself, maybe consider not getting it. You don't need the shiny new set when you're still working on a goal that you want to achieve. Because I guarantee at the end of the day, picking up a few of the shiny new tin cards with their fancy quarter-century secret rares, yeah, that could feel good for a bit, but you know what's going to feel better? Accomplishing the goals you set for yourself. Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. Okay. There's something to be said about the difference between a collectible and something that's marketed as a collectible. You see, a very common sales tactic that a lot of companies will use is they will mark a product as collectible and either upcharge it or try to make it seem like it's a limited rare item, when most of the time that's just not the case. Magic has the collector edition boxes. There's all sorts of collector's edition toys, comics, etc. And that's just a marketing gimmick. I guarantee it. It's always a marketing gimmick. It's just a way to create hype, push FOMO, all those other fancy biz buzzwords. And I guarantee, if you just ignore that stuff, if you just ignore collector's items and focus on the collection you're trying to build for yourself, you're going to have a better time at the end of the day. Not only are you going to complete the goals you've set for yourself, but you're going to do it within the budget you set for yourself, which is always a good thing to do, especially as life becomes more expensive. Now, earlier, I said you should start with a set that you're familiar with. And that leads me into my next tip. Become familiar with something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's the worst set ever. I don't care if it's Fallen Empires or whatever the Yu-Gi-Oh equivalent of Fallen Empires is. I don't actually know what it is. When you start your collection journey, you should do as much research into whatever you intend to collect as possible. You should look into the print runs. You should look into what cards come out of it, obviously, but also which of them had seen play historically in the various metagames they were a part of. You should obviously look into what the most expensive card is, as well as what the interesting cards are, like what belongs to a unique archetype, what's never gotten a reprint before. Are there any major misprints that are known to be pretty common in the set you're trying to collect? And are those misprints noteworthy enough that you could consider them part of your collection if you were going to try to complete the set? So to say, all of this and way, way more is the kind of things you should be looking for when you're just getting started. Now, I'm not saying spend 30,000 hours ripping apart every single card in the set to learn all of its secrets. I'm just saying become familiar with the set so that you know what you're looking at when you're getting into your collection journey, because that's important. It's very easy, trust me, to grab the wrong thing when you're trying to collect something. It's happened to me more than once in the past, where I thought I was getting card A for a collection, when in actuality I was getting card F. And it's a bad feeling when that happens, trust me. And my final bit of advice here is just have fun with it. There's a lot of people who take whatever hobby they're getting into very seriously. And this can lead to genuine, serious love for the hobby. But it can also lead to burnout. You know, don't fly headlong into something and dedicate all of your time and energy to it at once. Take it easy. Take it slow. You know, when you're starting with, let's say that you're starting with a vintage collection, okay? You want to collect all of, let's go with Invasion of Chaos, okay? Don't dump all of your money onto it at once. Start with whatever the big item is. And that's a sub-tip right there. Start with the most expensive item. When you're, especially if you're buying vintage cards for your collection, start with whatever the most expensive item is. You'll thank me about that. But yeah, don't get caught up with everything. Don't, expend all of your energy, especially if you're just getting started. Save some of that excitement for later. Especially save some of that excitement for after you've accomplished your first collection goal. Let's say that let's say that you did set out to collect all of unlimited LOB, and you completed it after, might have taken you a few months, but you did it, and now you're happy to have done it, and now you're ready to move on to the next thing without, taking a huge break from collecting in general, and you can have a new goal on the horizon. But if you rush headlong into LOB and get it all out of the way at once, you might end up wearing yourself out. You might end up getting fatigued just buying that one set. When had you taken it nice and slow and enjoyed every card as you acquired them, you'd find it might have been a bit different. It's easy to pull the trigger and buy 100 cards in one shot, and then find that not a single one of them meant anything in the long run. That card you picked up is just another secret rare that you picked up with a button click, instead of enjoying the process of picking each one up individually, sleeving them, throwing them in your binder. Well, that one's damaged. And just enjoying the entire process. Now, I know I'm not exactly the expert when it comes to collecting in general. I don't have a huge collection. I hardly even consider myself a collector. But these tips, this advice, is the kind of thing that I consider strongly whenever I'm doing what little collecting that I do engage in. I try to avoid setting nebulous goals. I try to stick to a very strict budget. And I don't freak out and buy a giant pile of cards at once for my personal collection. When I do buy giant stacks of cards, it's usually to resell them, because that's the kind of thing I enjoy. Sorting, reselling, the entire business side of things. Anywho, that's really all I've got for you kids today. Let me know if you found any of these tips engaging, whether or not you found any of them completely silly, and of course, whether or not you'd like for me to discuss this topic further in a future video. That's really all I've got for you right now. I'll see you kids in the next one.